So, what if I told you that everything you perceive, the entire world, your own body, even your thoughts, is nothing more than a reflection? A reflection in the mirror of your own mind. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most profound texts in Mahayana Buddhism, the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, to explore this pretty wild idea and the path it reveals for achieving total clarity.
Okay, so our whole journey today kicks off with this single, powerful question. Maitreya Bodhisattva asks the Buddha this. And you gotta understand, this isn't just some abstract philosophical question. It's intensely practical. It's asking, how does someone who's dedicated to enlightenment actually work with their own mind? And the answer, well, it turns everything we think we know about reality completely on its head.
So the answer the Buddha gives, it all rests on this one core idea. And it's both super simple and completely mind-bending. The idea is that reality isn't really out there somewhere. Instead, everything we experience is a direct manifestation of our very own consciousness.
And here it is, straight from the text itself. This is the crucial point. Everything you see, hear, taste, and think, these aren't separate, independent things that your mind is just passively observing. No, they are the activity of the mind itself, just appearing as objects. Basically, your entire reality, it's a projection.
But wait a minute. This immediately brings up a really fascinating puzzle, right? If the image is the mind, then how can the mind see the image? That's kind of like an eyeball trying to see itself without a mirror. Well, the scripture totally anticipates this problem and gives us a brilliant analogy to clear it up.
And here it is. It's so elegant. The text explains that there isn't one thing seeing another thing. Instead, it's just the very nature of the mind. When your mind is active, it just naturally produces these images. The same way a clean mirror naturally produces a reflection. The reflection isn't separate from the mirror, right? But it appears as an image on the mirror's surface.
Okay, so if our mind is this incredible, self-reflecting mirror, how do we actually work with it? How do we clean it and really understand its nature? The text gives us this powerful two-part toolkit. The twin practices of shamatha, or calm abiding, and vipassana, or clear insight.
Now, what's so cool here is how these two practices are like the perfect team. Think of shamatha as the act of quieting the mind. It's about letting all the muddy water settle until everything becomes still and clear. It makes the mind pliable. Vipassana, then, is what you do with that clear mind. It's the act of investigation, using that stillness to look deeply into the nature of the reflections, the phenomena that appear.
And the text is super clear about this. You really can't have one without the other. They aren't two different paths you can choose from, they're two wings of the same bird. You see, Vipassana actually uses the calm, stable mind created by shamatha as its laboratory for investigation. One calms the mirror, and the other sees the reflections with perfect clarity.
So, what's the point of all this? Why do we even need to do it? Well, because our default state, according to this text, is that we're basically tangled up in illusions. These practices are the key to untying the mental knots that keep us trapped. The text tells us there are two main culprits, these two bonds that keep us stuck. The first one is the bond of marks. This is our habit of getting hooked by the surface level of everything. We label things, we judge them, and we believe they're solid and real. The second is the bond of affliction. This is all the heavy stuff, the greed, the anger, the confusion that grows out of that first bond. So the whole game plan is to cut the problem off at the source. The idea is, if you can learn to see the marks, all the labels, concepts, and appearances for what they really are, just temporary reflections in the mirror of your mind, then all those heavy afflictions that depend on them, they just won't have any ground to stand on. And this is where it gets really specific. The text gives us this incredible set of antidotes, like a prescription from a mental pharmacy. You got a problem with getting stuck on words and ideas? The antidote is contemplating the emptiness of all dharmas. That deep-seated feeling of me, of self-pride, you use internal emptiness for that. Getting caught up in attraction and aversion, you use internal and external emptiness. It's incredibly precise.
And this is the real genius move. What happens if you get so good at this that you become attached to the idea of emptiness itself? You start thinking, emptiness is the ultimate truth. The text has an answer for that too. The emptiness of emptiness. It's the ultimate failsafe to make sure that the medicine doesn't become a new poison. It ensures a complete and total release.
Now, this whole journey of untying these bonds and clearing the mirror of the mind, it's not something that happens overnight. It's a gradual, step-by-step path. The text lays out exactly how a bodhisattva purifies their mind over many, many stages of development.
You can see how systematic this journey is, right? You start with the big, coarse stuff, the kind of defilements that lead to really negative states. Then as you progress, you start tackling subtler and subtler obstacles. By the third stage, you're working on greed. By the sixth, you're dealing with the constant chatter of mental concepts. Eventually, you even overcome attachment to super advanced meditation states, all the way until that final, ultimate liberation.
So you go on this incredible journey of practice, of purification. Where do you end up? What's the big payoff? What is the actual fruit of all this effort?
You know, when you boil it all down, this whole massive path is really about solving just two core problems. The entire point is to get free from those two fundamental bonds we talked about earlier, the bond of getting hooked on appearances and the bond of being weighed down by our own messy emotions.
And the scripture just puts it so beautifully. The result isn't some strange, far-out state. It's simply a well-purified mind and well-purified wisdom. In fact, the text says that every single wholesome quality you can imagine, whether it's worldly or beyond, it's all a fruit of this one balanced practice of calming the mind and seeing things clearly. So the teachings in this text, they give us this powerful metaphor and a really practical path. They challenge us to see our reality not as something that's just happening to us, but as something that's manifesting from us. And that leaves all of us with a pretty big question to think about. If you were to polish the mirror of your own mind until it was perfectly, spotlessly clean, what do you think you would see?